So now I'd love to welcome Maz Farrelly, who's our next guest of In Conversations. And I'm so excited to have you here. Maz, just before we get rolling, just to give people a bit of an idea of who Maz Farrelly is and where she's been and how she's got here, could you give me sort of like I know it's going to be hard, like a 2-minute version, snapshot into who Maz was?
Yes, I started life as a stylist in London, and Absolutely Fabulous was based on my agent. So when I used to watch it, I would think, why is that funny? Because to me, it seemed like a documentary, because we did go to parties all the time and drink champagne and travel first class, genuinely. And I looked like something that had escaped from a kind of Prada-wearing asylum, you know, because I was in the middle of shit. I didn't know that everyone didn't look like we did. And then I worked in telly and realised that nobody looked like I did. So I've made the biggest shows in the world with the biggest stars and the biggest teams and the biggest audiences. My content's been watched by about 8 billion people worldwide. And if you've watched it, I probably made it and won an award for it, because I've won lots of awards, only because I've been surrounded by very smart people. And I've made every kind of genre. So everything from Big Brother, the really naughty ones, to creating Q&A. So I say to people, I don't really make reality, or I make content that engages you. So I'm the queen of communications. I'm kick-ass when it comes to communications. I make you watch people, and that's what I do.
Love that. I love that. And that's actually really relevant to our audience, because at the end of the day, why do most people start to speak? Because they want attention. And it's not, that sounds wrong. They actually have an idea and a message worth spreading, but
something they want to share.
They want people to watch them. They want people to listen to them. Yeah.
Yes. And it's hard to do it. It's really hard.
Yeah.
But I do have a formula, and it's this: you've got to be interesting.
Yeah.
That is absolutely it. And I say this brutal thing to people. So let's start off on a really bad foot. So everyone absolutely hates me. I always say to people, it is not my job to be interested. It is your job to be interesting. And when you realize that about business and about life, it changes your entire perspective, because we think when we're speaking that everyone's going to listen, but they're not, unless it's interesting. And if you have a website, unless you have clickbait that makes me want to click through, I'm not going to click through. No one is. No. So it's a very brutal thing to hear, but it's a good thing to hear.
Actually, because we first came across each other in sort of a couple of months ago, and then met up again.
And then I stalked you.
At a conference. And then you stalked me. I think I might have stalked you faster. But we met at conference, and I actually remember you saying that and thinking, oh, wow, okay, that is actually the epitome of what I talk to people all about all the time. And, you know, yes, in this world we're speaking, but previous to that with pitching for businesses, like, what is it that makes you different? What are you really selling here? Like, get rid of the platitudes and the things that everyone else is saying. Like, and they say, oh, you know, but we're really invested in customer service and customer relationships. I'm like,
we're really authentic.
Saying that.
What does that mean? I always say to people, give me 3 examples. So people come into auditions and castings, and they'll say, you know, I'm really crazy. And I go, great, give me 3 examples.
And then they go blank.
Yeah, we're really authentic. So great, give me 3 examples of when you've behaved in an authentic way. You know, if you make biscuits, do you put on the front of the biscuits, these will make you fat, but they taste good. That's authentic. But no one really does. It's one of those, I call them white noise words. They're white noise. And in the shows that I used to make, people talk in white noise all the time, and they're doing business too. I really want to win this. I'm going to give it 110%. It's not my time to go. I'm nervous but excited. And in business, you look at people's LinkedIns, and they say things like, I am an experienced ... passionate ... with 20 years experience in ... And that doesn't make it easy for me to remember you.
No.
It makes it really hard. So, you know, you've got to cut through.
I love that you say that, because one of the things that actually got me annoyed enough to create this business, and, you know, let's see if it's still standing in this changing world, but one of the things that I did that got me really annoyed was I went to a pitch fest, and there were 10 finalists, and I was really excited. I actually took a day as CEO of a traffic control company. I actually took a day out of my job to turn up for this thing, because I just love the spoken word. And it was a program with a great reputation. So I thought, wow, 10 of the best through that program. I'm really looking forward to this. And when I turned up, the first person walks out and says, hi, my name is, I'm here to talk to you about and da-da-da. Hi, my name is, I'm from, and I thought to myself by about the third person, I was like, oh my God. So I understood that for the purpose of judging that they needed this, what they could actually compare apples with apples. But what really annoyed me was I heard all 10. Not one of them told me why I should ever engage with them. And a lot of people, when people pitch well, you might say, you know, that's not for me, but wow, that's great. If I ever have a need for that, I'm going to go there. And I got to the end of that day and there was nothing from any of them that told me why I should work with them or deal with them or even make an inquiry. And I walked out furious because these people had spent a fortune in this big program and these were the best of the best. And I was like, wow, that got me really annoyed because I thought if people are out there taking money off people to say, let me teach you how to pitch, let me teach you how to position yourself, and let me teach you how to present yourself, and all I'm getting is a cookie cutter, bland interpretation of white noise, then something was fundamentally wrong because everybody has something they can sell.
People are really interesting.
Yeah.
People are fascinating. And sometimes they don't describe themselves in a fascinating way. And that's my thing. I think I want you to be twice as successful in half the time. Ooh. I want you to walk into every room and really own it. You know, I want you to be ready when someone says to you at barbecue, what is it you do? I want you to nail it. We call it sticky information that sticks in my head. So when we meet in a year's time, you go, oh yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
You're agent, absolutely fabulous. You worked in TV.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because I see brilliant people with brilliant skills and brilliant products and services, and they're not sharing it with the world. And they do that thing where it makes you go, oh, and you think, no, you're too good for that. You're brilliant. You've got to tell people. And the prime real estate is our first 30 seconds. In TV, if we're not interested or interesting in 30 seconds, you're not interested and you're gone. Yeah. And you've got to grab attention.
So what's the biggest things you see when you say, I want people to be twice as successful in half the time? What are the things that you do with people to create that opportunity for them?
I go through a series of questions with them, which essentially creates an elevator pitch that's about 30 seconds or a minute long, that tells you why they're different, why they're interesting, why they're a safe pair of hands, why now, why they are really engaged in this project. Because if you have a project, you're probably really engaged in it. When you tell me the story of that, it just cuts into my soul. It makes me love you.
Yeah.
But lots of people speak in white noise, and when they do, they're just not going to be successful because we are bombarded with information. You have to cut through. You have to tell your story in a different way. And when we tell really brilliant stories, your brain lights up and it stays. Yeah. So when you say, I am a passionate XXX with 30 years experience of XXX, I always say this to them. There is a doctor in the UK. He was a doctor for 24 years. 24 years he was a medic. He was at work every day, never took a day off. He was a passionate medic. He did it for 24 years. However, during that time, he killed 240 of his patients.
Oh my God. I didn't think you were going that direction at all.
In the world. His name was Dr. Harold Shipman. And people say, you know, I'm a passionate ... with X years experience. I say to them, so was he. But it didn't make him good at his job. It is unless you back it up with some examples. If you say, you know, I was a passionate TV and filmmaker. I was so passionate that at least once a week I slept at work because I worked such long hours that I thought by the time I go home, have a shower and come back, I might as well just sleep at my desk. I would sleep at my desk, I'd go and have a shower, I'd come back, I'd brush my teeth, you know, put some new nicks on, ready for the day. That's passionate.
Absolutely. What's the interpretation of it? And I know even I had a background in recruitment. I remember learning this one time. We'd been taught to interview a certain way, which is actually always to ask the result. And, you know, and there were different scenarios that we had to do in that. And what was really interesting with that was I remember one of them, we were recruiting a regional events director, so fairly hefty role. And she had an amazing experience. And then I said to her, you know, so what was the outcome for all of these events? She said, oh, you know, delivered to expectations and great community stakeholder engagement, great feedback, blah, blah, blah. And there was just something in me. And I said to her, so, you know, the whole thing with project management, which is what events is, the whole thing with project management is on budget, on time. She said, oh, no, I never was able to deliver on budget. It's just like, so she had this incredible repertoire of events, but not one of them had been delivered on or under budget. And it was just that one sentence that goes, oh, exactly what you're talking about with the doctor. It's like, that's not a good thing right now.
Not great. However, I would say that woman really is authentic.
Yeah, very.
So, yeah. So I think I'm very careful about words. I did a talk for the Indian police force maybe a month ago in Hyderabad, actually probably 2 months ago. And there was a guy there who was head of hostage negotiation in the UK. And he pulled up this slide and it said something like 87% of hostage situations are discussed and resolved. They don't go to violence. And you think all you have at that point is speech.
Yeah.
That's all you have, because you can't eyeball them. They're on the end of a phone, probably armed. And yet the power of words can change that person's mind so much that they will release hostages and walk out of a hostage situation.
Have you ever read the work by Chris Voss? I think it is. He's the he was global head of hostage negotiation for the FBI. And he was talking about how a lot of their hostage situations were ending up in death, and they decided that there was too much of that going on. So he now teaches at Harvard. He's left, and he wrote this book called Never Split the Difference. And he talks about in that, and he talks about, you know, the way that he got to use words and language and questions. And he said hostages would be, the kidnappers or the terrorists would be actually handing over the people confused because they didn't understand how they'd actually got into a situation where they agreed, and so they were using words to scramble their thinking and using questions. So for example, when their demands were out of control, they would use a question which was, now how are we going to do that? So instead of going, yes, we'll find it for you, or no, you can't have that, they would throw back a question. So how are we going to do that? Right? Or how do you expect us to do that? And all of a sudden, instead of this script, the hostage taker or the terrorist or whatever it is suddenly going, because we're conditioned to answer a question. We get asked a question, we must answer. It's how we're conditioned. So all of a sudden the hostage taker or the terrorist is actually, while he's consciously doing this, his unconscious mind is zipping off to answer the question, try and work out and give them the solution for how they're going to fix this thing. And it was all down to, as you say, the words and the language. And just, you know, we're here to talk about, because the reason for this conversation is because so much is going on in the world at the moment. And one of the things I've been working with a lot of people on is de-escalating their language. Have you found that people are they're in this really heightened state and their language is following it, and so it's sort of continually hyping them? So I'm actually getting people to de-escalate the words that they use.
Yeah, I've done a few things recently where I've been saying to people, for me, an acronym at the moment is KFC, which is kindness.
Mm-hmm.
So first thing, just be kind at the moment. Before you do anything, don't judge people. Don't judge people for anything at all. Be kind. So if you're a kind person, ramp it up to extraordinarily extreme kindness.
Yeah.
F, your friends and family. Treat everybody that you meet and everyone you work with as if they are your friends and your family. Just love them a whole lot more. And C, communicate.
Yeah.
So be kind, treat everyone as if they're your family, and communicate with everyone. Tell people how you're feeling and what's going on and how we're going to get through this, and ask them and converse. But I think it's, I think it would be good if we were kinder to ourselves and each other, I think. And, you know, we're going to get through this. You know, we absolutely are. And we are all responsible for our own happiness.
Absolutely.
And I think, we've got to be really kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think for parents who are out there, you know, I dodged that bullet, but for parents who are out there, you know, be kind to yourself, because you're going through a really hard time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're taking on 3 and 4 roles as such in this current environment.
Yeah.
Really interesting. So Maz, like, we just started talking a little bit about what's going on, and we will get through this. What was the moment of truth for you when you realized this was a game changer, shape changer, world changing thing that was happening around us?
I think it was hearing from friends that so much of their business was being cancelled.
Yeah.
And somebody posted something saying, I've had 25 things cancelled today. And that happened with about 7 or 8 people. And I think that was the day. And then you think about that, and if you take a moment, because I like to think, you know, behind what's happened, thinking, okay, so they have had their speaking gigs cancelled, which means the speaking gig is cancelled, which means the conference has been cancelled, which means the conference workers and the people who put the stage up and the lighting and the sound. and all the wait staff, and the people who make the food, and the hotels, and the people who drive them there, and the people who clean the place. And the knock-on effect is that there are an awful lot of people that we rely on all the time who are invisible to us, that are losing their jobs. And I think that's very important to me as well. I think it's a very important time to say thank you and be kind to the people we really rely on and never really applaud, like medics and delivery people, and the person who's going to make your coffee at the moment, even though they'd really rather stay at home and stay safe, but they're thinking about us and being kind, generous to us.
And it's been really interesting. One of my clients in Western Australia actually has a recruitment business, which is actually growing at the moment, but she is about to do her first media actually. And she's talking about the fact that because of all of their work within mining, people think it's mining operators and plant operators and that sort of stuff. She said, no. She said, they're bringing in more people at the support level. So the cleaners, the cooks, the chefs, the bus drivers, the grounds people, she said they're bringing in more people at the support level so that everyone else can just get on with what they need to do while they can do it. So what they're doing is they're using these incredible people that we usually don't notice. That's where they're actually bolstering it, because they've realized that it's at that level that they need the support for the other people just to get on with it. So it's not an expansion of the operational force. It's an expansion of making things efficient, which means bringing in more people in the support roles, which I find absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and I think also just little things that all of us can do. Like if we can't go to the hairdressers, which is great because you think, it's too close. But we can miss a hair appointment and buy a gift voucher and say, I'll use this next year. I'll catch up with myself. And the same with the nail salon, and the same if it's someone's birthday. Buy them, 100 coffees from their local coffee shop.
Yeah.
Do something that is a little bit thoughtful and a bit kind at the moment. And I think if we all do that, we're on the fighting chance of supporting each other.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, just thinking differently about it, not just thinking, I wonder how much loo roll I have. Actually, someone is packaging that somewhere and then driving it down there and then unloading it and then going home and worrying that, they've picked up the virus and they're going to give it to their kids or their family, but they're still doing it. And I think it's a time to applaud everyone, especially medics, people that we just take for granted. Well, that I take for granted.
Absolutely. So there's a whole world that speakers took for granted. What do you think, what have you noticed? Because I know that you've been around not necessarily speakers, but entertainers and high profile people and speakers. And there is a lot that you do take for granted when things start to work really well. So what have you noticed has been the biggest shift that you've seen in the people that you know with the impact?
I'm seeing lots of TV and filmmakers out of work very quickly. Pretty much, I would say 99% of the people that I know who work in the industry are all out of work. The thing that is, I guess, slightly less disturbing for us is we are all pretty much freelancers. So we're used to not working, we're used to no overtime, we're used to no job stability. So it's worse than it normally is, but it's kind of the same.
It's a little familiar.
It is. I think I'm seeing people offering skills to each other, which is great. And that's what I'm really trying to do. I'm trying to run free sessions for people who would never be able to afford me. Sounds like a terrible thing to say, doesn't it? Never be able to afford me, darling. But
no, I don't.
That have no money. You go, do you know what? I really want to help you, and I really want to help upskill you for no other reason than I really want you to be able to get a great job at the end of this. And I think if we have the time to be at home and look at our assets, even if it's for an hour a day, look at your LinkedIn, make it different to everyone else's. Tell people why you are more interesting than everyone else, why you are different. Tell them about your skills. Give them examples of your expertise. Tell them a story that's going to make them really like you. I did something with a guy recently who is an advertising guy, and he's brilliant. He's so clever. He sent me his website and said, do you mind just having a look? Tell me what you think. And I read it and I said, if I were you, I would write it in the first person. So he'd written about himself in the third. I like people writing about themselves in the first person because it's more personable. He said, I've won lots of awards. In fact, I won one in Cannes that made the judge so excited they knocked a table over.
I want to know that.
It's brilliant. It takes you 3 seconds to add that story. Stories can be really short. The shortest story of all time, I think, is wedding dress never worn.
Yeah.
You think, what was it? Well, wedding dress for sale, never worn. So 8 words.
Yeah.
That's the world's, shortest story. And you think, oh my God, that's an amazing story, isn't it?
Yeah, because you understand what goes behind it.
God, why are you selling it? Did you die? Did you change your mind? Oh,
yeah.
Very, very, very few words will tell you an amazing story.
Yeah.
But we have to tell amazing stories, because otherwise,
so what's your favorite amazing story that you've helped shape since you've been in this part of your world?
There was a guy that my ex-business partner Alison and I did some work with, and he's a filmmaker, and he's brilliant, and he's really interesting. His LinkedIn was really dull, and it was just heartbreaking for me. And he was saying, I'm not getting the meetings that I really want. And he'd written something like, I'm a passionate filmmaker with 20 years experience of, wah, wah, wah. And we spent a morning with him, and we said, why are you different? What have you done on set? So we spent a whole morning with him, but this is what he came up with. He said, done everything. I've been a director. And brilliant. Who have you directed? And he said, well, I gave Sam Worthington his first job. Brilliant. Sam Worthington. That's good. What else have you done? And he said, well, I was a driver, being a cook, a focus puller, done everything. He said, who have you driven? Because drivers hear all the gossip all the time, because people forget that drivers have ears. So on every show I ever made, the first thing I do is go and see makeup, go and see the drivers, because people just don't notice them.
Yeah.
And I said, who have you driven? He said, I drove Vin Diesel.
Yes.
Oh, great. And he said, yeah, not for long though. No, all right. Was he not around? And he said, no. He fired me. Went, really? What did he fire you for? And he said this brilliant line: driving too fast.
Not like you expect from Vin Diesel, is it?
Brilliant. And I said, why are you making this movie? It's a movie about Kung Fu. And he said, my daughter is 9. And I said to my daughter, who are your heroes? And she said, well, I love Michelle Obama, and I love Taylor Swift. And she said, yeah, that's it. He said, if I had a son, he'd have the X-Men, he'd have footballers, politicians, Avengers, superheroes. He'd have hundreds. And that's why I'm making this movie. I want my kid, my little girl, to have another hero. And I said, that's brilliant. I said, so we've got to get these people to open your email, because the email is now really good. Sam Worthington, Vin Diesel fired you, telling me the reason that you're making this movie and why they should invest in it. And when you tell me that story, I know that you're going to work really hard. But we've got to make the people open up the email. So he said, can you do any martial arts? And he said, yeah, I can kill someone in 10 seconds, leave no trace. I went, brilliant. That's the title of your email. So put in the subject matter, how to kill someone in your office in 10 seconds and leave no trace. And within, I think, 2 hours, he had both the meetings he wanted.
Wow.
And one of them had written back and said, someone in the office giving me the raving, come in, pitch me, and then we'll kill them.
That's fantastic.
It's brilliant.
There was something that got the attention. And
yes.
Most of us would actually, sitting at home, most of us would go, oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't put that into a subject.
You can.
Yeah.
You absolutely can. If you want attention, you have to get my attention. And my attention is the most precious thing I have.
Yeah.
My time is the most precious thing I have, along with my health, because I will never have more time. It doesn't matter how rich I am or how successful, I can't buy it. Yeah. So when I'm giving you my time and I'm giving you my attention, it's transactional. You have to give me something interesting. In TV, if I don't give you entertainment and some funny and some surprises and some tears and some brilliant stories, you're gone.
Yeah.
It's the transaction. I would like your attention. I will give you this. Yeah. Here you go, Maz. I will give you my attention because it's moderately funny and interesting. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Yeah. And life is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Everyone's audience is my audience.
Mm-hmm.
We're all the same. We want to be interested.
Yeah. So if people are sitting at home at the moment, and let's face it, the majority of us,
yes.
And particularly those of us that suddenly are out of work. So when it comes to looking at, you said, spend an hour a day looking at your assets, have a look at LinkedIn. What are the things that we should be being really hypercritical about and really looking at?
Okay, so imagine that I give you $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Now, for every word that you have on LinkedIn, on your website, on your cover letter, on your CV, I'm taking back $10,000.
Every word.
Use your words very carefully. Make them matter. When we write a script, if it's an hour long, we'll write 3 hours, and then we'll cut it to 2 hours, and we'll cut it to an hour. And we know that at that point, it's really meaty. There's no fat. There's no white noise. It's just sticky information. Yeah. When we cut a show, we cut the X Factor or Q&A, or Q&A's live, the Celebrity Apprentice, Fun What's a Life. We cut it long, then we chop, 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 chop until it's just the meat. Go through everything. If there's white noise, if there's anything that could apply to anybody in your industry, take it out, because it makes you the same as everyone else. And if you are the same as everyone else, guess what? I can book them and not you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually quite brutal. Like when you think about, so if I was to pull up other people in my space and I'm saying the same things as them, there is no differentiator.
I can book them. I don't need you. I can have them. But there is something about you that is amazing, and you have to tell me. And there would be something. Everyone has something that's fascinating. I did something at the Australian Film, Television and Radio School recently, a talk and some training, pitching training. And there was a woman there. And we did the, half a day on how to do your elevator pitch. And she said something that was so interesting. I thought, I'm going to share this with people, because when people say there is nothing interesting about me, this woman said, there is nothing interesting about me.
So she led with it.
And she said, if you needed to take a poll of everyone in the country, you don't need to. Come around my house. I live in a house with 2.5 bedrooms. I live in the suburb that is the mean suburb in Australia. I live in a house that is the average price of a house. I drive a Holden. I have 2.5 children. And she said, I even have average blood pressure. She said, if you needed to talk to 300,000 Australians, don't bother, come around my house, have a cup of tea. I'm so ordinary. I'm so middle of the road Australian. Just have a chat with me. We're done. And she became the woman with average blood pressure. You go, which one is it? You go, oh, the one with average blood pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that brilliant?
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Brilliant. Everybody has something fascinating about them, but it takes a while to tell the story, because the default really lazy option is to say, I'm a passionate, marketing person with 20 years experience for all the big brands. You go, no, I can't remember you. But if you said, I am in advertising and I've won every award, and in Cannes, the judge was so excited, knocked the table over.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you got something I want.
I get that. Yeah. So it has to be, your interesting, sticky information has to be relevant to your industry and to your job. So, whatever you do, whatever you tell me, back it up by, your job. So if you've been in the military, what's that going to bring to the table? Well, discipline and strategic thinking and teamwork, and you've got drive and all those things. You think, tell me something that makes you interesting. Tell me that Vin Diesel fired you for driving too fast, because then I love you and I'll remember you. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, you've met my partner who's military, and one of the big realizations for him was stop being a military speaker. And one of the things that he talks about is actually having to surf a warship down 14-meter waves, right? That gets the attention. Like, there's obviously a lot of stuff going on. So now when he brings that to the table, and he actually says, I had to drive this warship like I stole it. I had to drive it like I stole it,
Brilliant.
So that sort of thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes. It's stuff that completely cuts through, that makes you go, oh my goodness. And your prime real estate is your first 30 seconds. Lovely Dicko, the judge from Australian Idol and all of those shows, he also is a producer, and he came up with a show called Can of Worms with a bunch of other really smart producers. And, well, how would you describe a can of worms?
It talks about, so when I was watching it, I used to love it, because it would, like, he'd just put a question, you go, oh yeah, and then you go to answer it and you realize you couldn't.
Yes.
Like,
very difficult to describe what a can of worms is.
Absolutely.
So what they decided to do, but it's difficult, because it's something that's a thread that when you pull it, it never ends. It's a question you can't answer. It's very difficult to describe that as a TV format. So he said what they decided to do was go into the network, sit down with them, and just say, okay, before we tell you about the show, can we just ask you a question? Okay. They said, is it racist to say that black men have bigger than white men? And they went, yes, that's racist. And then someone said, well, it's a compliment. And then someone said, it's a racist compliment. And then someone else said, can you even have a racist compliment? And someone in the room said, welcome to Can of Worms.
Boom.
Bought it.
Yeah.
How long does that take you? 45 seconds.
Yeah.
But my goodness, it takes you 4 hours to think about that.
Yeah.
Now you could walk in and say, no, we've got a show and this is the show. It's kind of like a show where, you know, you discuss things, you never get to the end. God, I'm not buying that show.
Yeah, exactly.
So it has to be different. It has to cut through. I can't say this enough. You have to be different.
Yeah.
If you are different to everyone else, you have so much more of my attention. There are 100 people in the room and you look like everyone else, and you sound like everyone else. You are one of 100. And if you are different and you sound different, you look different, you jump from 1 in 100 to 50% of my attention, because there is you and then everybody else. And suddenly it's all about you.
Yeah.
So have a look that is different to everyone else, even just a tiny thing like, you know, red lips and gold jewelry or whatever it is.
Yeah,
you know,
whether it's your signature or whether it's your experience.
Yeah, if it's, you know, if you're a guy, you know, do you have interesting socks?
Mm-hmm.
I met someone recently and they said, oh, socks are my thing. And I thought, brilliant.
Yeah.
Who is it? It's the guy with the socks. Oh yeah, I love the guy with the socks.
Yeah.
But if you say, you know, it's the guy in the grey suit, you know, I know, he's got grey hair, he's got like glasses, he's got, you know, he's wearing blue socks. And is there anything different about him? No. It's like when you get lost in the country, you get lost in the bush, and you think, there are no landmarks here.
Yeah.
I need a landmark. You need a landmark.
Yeah.
You need to help me remember you.
What sort of questions should people actually ask themselves to be honest about that? About what's
why you're different? What's your unique selling point? Why are you a safe pair of hands? So when I do talks and I say to people, you know, and they go, can you do it for half an hour, 45 minutes or an hour? I go, I made TV for 30 years. I can make it 6 hours long or 6 minutes, whatever you want.
Whichever direction you want me to go.
But that makes you feel safe. When I say that 8 billion people have watched my content, if you want me to create content for you, you're going to feel pretty safe. How do you make me feel safe? So why are you different?
Oh, I like that.
What is your unique selling point?
Yeah.
Safe. What is different about you? What in your past makes you an expert in this field? Why are you expert? And when you put it all together, it gives you an interesting story.
Yeah.
So the most important one, I think, is why are you different? Why are you unique? And do not use all that white noise. Do not tell me you're the life and soul of the party. You're a real people person. You really want to win. That's going to give it 110%. It's not my time to go.
Yeah.
I'm a bit excited. White noise can't hear you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really brutal. What I used to do with TV shows when I was pitching them is I would wait until everyone had gone home, and then when the cleaners came in, I would say to them, can I just run this by you? Tell me if you think this is a good idea. And I would describe the show in one sentence. And I'd say, can you describe it back to me? And if they could, I think, brilliant, that's the pitch.
Okay.
And
that's actually a really good tip for everybody.
Yeah, and I used to do it with just constantly. So I get in an Uber and, you know, what do you do? You know, I make TV shows. In fact, I've got one at the moment. Can I just tell you about it?
Yeah.
And we have one in the marketplace at the moment. It's a dementia show. It's Big Brother for dementia.
So you got my attention straight away, and I know what it is.
And you know what it is.
Yeah.
What's that? 4 words? It's Big Brother for dementia. 5 words.
Yeah.
Now, it took us a long time to get there. We talked about, you know, well, we put people in a house and we take their bloods and we take brain scans before they go in, and then you take away all the sugar and you give them sleep hygiene and they have to do memory tests. And no, it's Big Brother for dementia. We can turn the clock back. We can make Australians younger on their next birthday.
Yeah.
Why? 1 in 4 beds is a dementia bed. We want to get it down to 1 in 6.
So that's so powerful. It actually just reminds me as well, this morning with this series, we sent a conversation with Troy and Zara, Love, Live, and which was a lot of fun. But they also talked about, when we're talking about what people can do to really hone their stuff, they were actually talking about watching a Jerry Seinfeld documentary on Netflix, which is about his script editing. And it was about how he can spend a week to get 2 words right.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's actually, so one of my mantras has always been, since moving into this industry and starting to work with people specifically on this speaking, one of my mantras has been, this is a craft. This is not something you wing. And some people say, I can just wing this and I'm great shooting from the hip.
Nobody can
Exactly.
wing it.
And
I've
I
worked
always
with
say
the
to people,
biggest stars in the world, and let me tell you this, household names for the last 30 years. Every single day of my existence, I have done this.
yeah,
Nobody wings it. On the other side of that camera, when they look like they're just being really conversational, 200 people have got them there.
yeah.
And when it looks like it's just really conversational, it isn't.
No, it is. That's what I
I'm
say
a
to people.
producer and
Yeah.
I prepare everything. And it's my,
Yeah.
you know, and if I'm doing stuff and preparing and making notes and thinking about it and rehearsing it, wow, you know, you can't.
And
You
that's what I say
can't
to
wing
people
it.
all the time. Like, you know, do you love your movies? And everyone will have a favorite movie. I'm like, do you think they ad-libbed that thing? You know,
Yeah.
it was scripted and it was refined and it was perfected. And just hearing Troy and Zara like directing people to the Jerry Seinfeld doc to say, you know, this is what you need to understand about what it takes to bring a great script together, which is the
Yes.
foundation of your speaking. And listening to you say, you know, we go so big and then we bring it into one or two or three powerful sentences. But those powerful sentences all answer a different question. So you just did three sentences that powerfully answered three different questions. So it wasn't like this guff and this novel. And that's what I say to people all the time. This is a practice. It is a craft. You cannot do this without building it. You cannot do this without, you know, I get people now to copy type speeches so that they get through their head what it takes.
Record it, watch yourself back.
Yeah.
Record it, play it for your friends and say, tell me when you're bored. On TV shows, when we had
I love that. Actually, can I just pull you up there very quickly? Because for everyone watching, no matter who they are at what level, you should actually do that tonight. You should actually record yourself.
Everyone.
Ask everyone to watch you, and not because you to tell you when it's boring them.
Be
I
brutal.
love that.
Be brutal. Yeah, and say, well, when you're starting out speaking, do two things. Record yourself, watch yourself back, and see when you get bored. Record yourself, watch yourself back with no sound.
Oh, and see whether or not we can still get the message. Yeah.
You know, see if, is your body language interesting? What does your body language say about you?
Mm.
You know, what does it say? Because people will come in to castings and they go, oh, I'm the life and soul of the party. Are you? Don't think so. And it's fine. You don't have to be. Not everyone does.
Mm-hmm.
But have a look at your body language. And back to rehearsals, when people say, I'm going to wing it, and say, when you got married, did you wing it? Or did you taste the food and go through the menu really carefully? Mm-hmm. Did you just book in the old band, or did you check? And, you know, did you think about it? Did you think about all the colours and how this has to match this? And how people enter the wedding? When do they get a drink? How do you make sure the drink is cold? Where are the fridges? Is there a generator for that fridge? This is the detail. Mm. And in TV shows, my mum used to say to me, you know, so when you do the X Factor, what do you do for the rest of the week? Well,
not a lot.
And one day I thought, I need to describe what I do. I said, okay, so you know when you see the judges come through those sliding doors? And she said, yes. I went, right, okay. So who booked the judges, and who dressed them, and who briefed them, and who booked the travel to get them there, and where did they get changed? And you see the doors, who built the doors, and how much they weigh, and when they were made, how did we get them into the studio? Because we need to make sure that those huge doors will get through the door to allow the doors into the studio. Now, how do we pull the doors back? Are they automated? Because if they are and it goes wrong, what do we do? So we also have someone on standby. We have 2 guys on standby to pull them. Now, how can they hear? Because, of course, they're behind the stage, aren't they? And there's a huge audience and you can't hear them. And if they're wearing these, there's not a chance of you. And then do you have to give them a verbal or a visual clue? Close, open. And if they do, then who's doing that? So I need to employ somebody to do that. And of course, the lighting in the doors, and then the electricity to get the lighting to the doors, and what's on the doors. And you go, that's just the doors being pulled back. Yeah. That's what I do for a week. And that's just the doors. That's just them walking through the door. Mm-hmm. And then you start on the stage. You think that's about even writing a script or booking talent. The amount of detail that goes into everything has to be monumental for it to work. Yeah. Nobody, I don't know anybody who wings it.
No. And, you know, it's interesting. I ran an event towards the end of last year, which was our Hot Speaker Track event. And people were blown away by how it ran like a professional event. And I was like, how else would you do it? But we were meticulous in every detail. And I had staff on the day that nobody even saw, as well as people that people could see. And it was what people didn't realize was, even for 7 days before, every move that we made was scripted.
Oh, where is it?
That we, for 7 days leading into this thing, and then there was the pre-day, as you know, and the bumping and the go live, and as you know, and it is. And I used to say to people, like, we produced this thing. It was,
Yes,
you know, the production. It's not, we don't, you know. And when people say you're so incredible at pulling events together, and it's like, yeah, but that's because I don't actually just think it's where it's, you just put it on because it's an experience when people arrive.
Yeah,
you know,
you
it's
have to produce everything. If you want people to do whatever you want them to do, you have to make them want to do it. It's such a tiny thing to think, I want you to do this. No, that doesn't work. That's pushing someone. You have to think about, what do they want? How do I get them to do what I want them to do? But they have to want to do it. So I liken it to hidden camera. So I did a big show in the UK called Noel's House Party, and I did the gotchas, which were kind of pranks, hidden camera pranks on celebrities. So very famous British celebrities. And what I had to do was make sure that they really reacted. Because when they reacted, it was really funny. When they got cross really quickly, it was really funny. I couldn't have a slow build because that's not funny. I had to get them in there and reacting the way I wanted them to react as quickly as possible. I wanted them to be really cross really quickly. So I didn't wing it. What I did is I would book an actor to pick them up. So if they were due to be at the studio to record, you know, a fake ad or whatever it is, I would get the cab driver, who was an actor, to ring on their doorbell at 6 a.m. when they were supposed to be there at 8. Oh, hello, you know, what are you doing here? I'm a bit early. Can I use your loo? Of course not. You can't use my loo. Can I make a cup of tea? Can I sit inside? It's a bit cold outside. Yeah, of course you can't. Go away and come back. They get them to come back at 7, and then when they're due to be there at 8 o'clock, don't turn up. Arrive at half an hour. So by this stage,
orchestrated lead in.
They're furious. Get them in the back of the car. Make sure you get their name wrong. So if it's, you know, Kylie Minogue, just say, Danny, I love you. You are magnificent, Danny. You know, your sister, I can take or leave her, but Danny Minogue, you are the best. And, you know, Kylie will be like, I'm Kylie. They go, oh, sorry. I always get you two muddled. No, you're the one I like. And drop them. If they're supposed to be at the front of the BBC, drop them at the back. Just make it as awful for them as possible. And then when the producer arrived, to say, you know, come through, get their name wrong again, put them somewhere cold, make sure they wait forever, ask them if they want tea, give them coffee. So by the time they get to us, we are ready to roll, and they are ready to give me what I want them to give me. There's no slow burn. If you want something to happen, you have to produce the situation to make it happen. And by the end of it, they would be crying, laughing, and they go, God, I've had the worst day. And we say, yeah, we did that. Are you kidding? And they would be sobbing, laughing. And then they'd meet the actor. The actor would come out and go, sorry about your doorbell at 6 a.m. And they go, my God. And then they'd meet the coffee person. You go, also an actor. They go, who else? And you go, they're an actor. They're an actor. In fact, everyone you have met today, apart from your partner in bed this morning, was an actor. Everyone. And they're laughing their heads off, and you're watching at home and you go, oh my God, it's amazing, isn't it, how that works? And you go, it works because we spent a week thinking about what could go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. So when it comes to adapting that to people, because primarily this audience is speakers and people who want to speak, so how do people apply production to their speaking?
One of the things I see people do a lot that I think is real, remember I was talking about Dico and prime real estate. People will have their name and the name of the session on the big screen. It's your prime real estate. Set the tone. So have something up there that is interesting or funny or different. So if I'm doing why you need a bit of showbiz in your life, I have a picture of remote control, and I have this. It says the remote control is the enemy of the hot woman at the front. And you're going to go, nice. You know, what is your prime real estate? The music on the way in. I did a talk at Facebook at the end of last year, and just before my session, the guy was playing something like Leonard Cohen, and I went to the audio guy and went, Ed, are you trying to kill me? Could you put a bit of disco on, please? And he started laughing. He went, what do you mean? So look at people walking in the door. look at them. And they're walking in, and Leonard Cohen, God, you know, I've got a bad mortgage and those kids are a bit annoying. And, you know, you're starting to kind of think about your life. I said, put some disco on. People started walking the door like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want people to be in a certain state of mind, get them to that state of mind. Come out, tell me why we're here, who you are, why you're qualified, why you're a safe pair of hands, why you're different. Tell me what to expect. Make me laugh, make me cry, and surprise me. Brené Brown is famous because of one slide.
Yeah.
One slide made Brené Brown famous. And she's a genius. But there are a lot of people like her out there who are as genius, but she did something that was next level genius. And she was talking about the fact that she'd done all this research forever. And, you know, when she delivered it, it wasn't the right research. In fact, you know, it was the exact opposite of what she thought was going to happen. And of course, this led to breakdown.
Yeah.
And who's expecting that?
No one.
And we all went, oh my God, you're the breakdown. No, she'd said, you know, I did all my research. And actually what happened then was I had a breakdown because the research showed me that actually all the things I've been thinking about weren't really right. And anyway, I then moved on to, you wouldn't know who Brené Brown was, I think. So
no, because she brought that vulnerability, and so I call it
surprise.
The surprise.
She brought the element of surprise.
Yeah, that surprise and delight. It's like, you know, we have people tell all the time anecdotes from history, and they're using the same things that we hear over and over again, especially now that we have memes on social media. And it's like, if you're going to tell something about someone famous, find a surprising element that the audience isn't expecting. I'm not saying don't talk about your heroes. I'm saying find something that will surprise and delight us. And the delight doesn't have to be that it's something that's heartwarming. The delight has to be, oh my God, I've learned something new about my hero. I've learned something new that I've never heard before. That's the delight.
Yes.
You know?
Make me laugh, make me cry, surprise me.
Yeah.
So make me go, oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Or I wasn't expecting that. We love that. We love presents. It's why we unwrap presents. I use the analogy of stripping. You never go to see strippers and they jump out and they go, here are my bits.
No, not that I'm a frequenter of strippers, but no.
I have no idea, but I've seen the showgirls. And
yeah.
But you think about it. It's true. We do reveals. We love reveals. We love teasers. We love surprises. So make me laugh. Comedy trumps everything in all content. Comedy always wins. You know, make me cry. And when I say make me cry, I mean surprise me. You know, make me care about the person you're talking about. Tell me something about them. Tell me a story that makes me absolutely engage with them. Susan Boyle is the perfect example of that. And surprise me. So when the reason the big shows that I used to make are the biggest shows in the world is because they do those three things. And anything that you love, any piece of content, and it can be a book or a podcast or a TED talk or a movie or a TV show, it will do those three things.
Yeah.
Sports, politics, everything. You've got to make me laugh at some point, even if it's really dark. I need a little laugh in there. You have to make me care about people. And we're brilliant at that on TV shows. We make you care about 12 people on Big Brother in an hour.
Yeah.
It's hard. And then surprise me. Tell me something that makes me go, oh, didn't see that coming. Wow, that's amazing. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We love that. It engages our brains. And when our brain is engaged, I will remember you. You stick in my mind. When you leave the room, I will remember you. And when I'm having a conversation about your industry, I will be talking about you.
Yeah. And that's what we all want, isn't it?
What we want.
Absolutely. Okay. Excellent. Well, thank you, darling. I'm going to wrap us up there. I could actually talk all afternoon and into the night as
that wine's not going to drink itself.
Yeah. So I am going to wrap it up there. But for those people who want to reach out to Maz and connect, her contact details will be in the comments below the video and you can find her directly. And just remember, while we're all sitting at home, look at your assets. Be very careful about how you do that. But look at your assets and actually compare yourself and see if you sound the same as your competition. And if you do, find what's interesting about you, put the words around it and send it out there. Yeah?
Yes. Be different, be interesting. Sticky information.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.